Fuck it.
Fuck it. Fuck it.
Hey, mama. If you are a mom and are tired of the wash, rinse, repeat burnout cycle of motherhood, this podcast is for you. If you feel lonely and isolated in your motherhood journey, this podcast is for you. If you feel like you have completely lost your identity since your babies were born, this podcast is for you. If you feel like every other mom has it together except for you, this podcast is for you. My name is Amanda, and I'm a life coach dedicated to teaching every mom the tools she needs to liberate herself off the back burner. I am living proof that a woman can be present and loving to her kids while also being a whole-ass person outside of being that kid's mom. The secret? Learning when to say fuck it.
Hello, welcome to the Fuck It Mothering podcast. I am your host, Amanda Haro, and I just bashed the shit out of my toes just a few moments ago. I was like trying to push my computer chair backwards and my foot just slipped on the carpet and ran right into my ginormous fucking computer that's right underneath my desk that I have such a love-hate relationship with because I'm so grateful to have a computer that runs really well and is able to do the things I needed to do. But holy fucking shit, it's way too big. That's not what she said. And it just takes up too much space in my small office area that's in my bedroom, but it's okay. It's okay. It's all going to be fine. My goodness. Earlier today, from when I'm recording this like little intro video, I recorded the second Fuck It Friday episode. Oh my gosh. So much fun. I love this. I was in love with the series when I had the idea because I just knew what it had the potential to be, and like being able to like live in that potential. I don't know if that came out right, but like it's just so great. I love it so much. I'm so glad you guys have been enjoying it. So the next Fuck It Friday episode will be coming out on June 7th, and it's a good one. I decided I'm titling it Toddlers Are Assholes. Because they are. Holy shit, toddlers are assholes. So far, like my oldest is only 13, so I'm still just barely getting my toes wet in the teenage years. But so far, toddlers are hands down worse than teenagers. So far, knock on wood. I've really been getting into my woo, like the woo side of me. Really tapping into just why not, regardless of like your religious beliefs. I think we can all admit that there's something inside of us, like there's something inside the meat shell that we all run around in. And so tapping into stuff that feeds my soul and my spirit has felt so good. And I went to Barnes & Noble and bought 3 different Oracle decks. I already had 1 Oracle deck and 2 tarot decks. But yeah, I bought 3 Oracle decks and hashtag no regrets. Okay. I love my new Oracle decks. And I decided I'm going to pull one for you guys from my Rose Oracle deck. Let's see who wrote this one. By Rebecca Campbell. And I will link that in the show notes in case you guys want to get one for yourself. I love this deck. It's beautiful. The artwork is really beautiful, and I just love the messages, obviously. Let's see what encouragement you guys need this week. Healing is happening. You're not broken. Trust the process. It's safe to soften. I'll show you guys who are watching the video. Beautiful artwork on here. If my camera will focus. Doesn't really want to, but healing is happening, guys. I could not have like picked a better card. If I had like just cheated and gone through, I couldn't have picked a better card, especially for this episode. So this week, I have another guest for you. Her name is Amanda Curry, and she is an inner child coach. So she works with you on a somatic level, to heal on a very, very deep level, old beliefs that you picked up when you were a kid about yourself and about relationships and about the world. We had such a great conversation. And didn't I tell you guys that I just attract Amandas to me? It's the weirdest thing that I do. I attract Amandas. But she is such a gem. We had such a great conversation, and it like dove into also like marital dynamics, like what happens when your husband is not on board for the coaching program that you want to do, or like whatever it is that you want to do, like something that just sounds like really like, whoa, babe, that's out there. Let's talk about it. Like when you don't have that support from your partner, like how do you handle that? Such a juicy conversation. I'm so excited for you guys to listen and dive into it, and to meet Amanda. She's wonderful. So I hope you guys really like meditate on this oracle card that you guys got. Healing is happening. You're not broken, because we all think that there's something wrong with us, right? We're always chasing the next fix. We're always chasing the thing to make us whole and worthy, but you're not broken. Trust the process. It's safe to soften. I love you guys. Have a fantastic week. All right. Welcome, guys, to another week of Fuck It Mothering. I have another special guest for you, and I'm going to let her introduce herself to you.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you are having me on here. I feel like for a Monday morning, like this is the vibe that I need for this week, 100%. But yeah, so I am Amanda Curry, Dr. Amanda Curry. I'm a physical therapist by trade, traditionally trained as a physical therapist, and really in the last 5 years have shifted that body work, that support, that active service to a completely different lens. One that still deals with the body, but deals with the body in regards to also bringing in the mind and the spirit, and that as a somatic inner child and reparenting coach. And so if you would have told me that 5 years ago, pre-pandemic, in the height of my overdoing, overfunctioning, overachieving, I'd have been like, no, I don't, that doesn't really resonate. Like I can kind of see it, but like, absolutely not. And I think it would have come from a place of, not that I didn't believe it was possible, but that sounded really scary and really like something that would take a lot of me and a lot from me. And so really it's just been this unraveling of what did Amanda learn that she needed to be, who she should be, what would be appreciated or valued, and kind of dialing things back and really questioning, like where did I learn these things? And then putting that work, that transformational change into practice, and now supporting moms as a breathwork facilitator. And as I said before, as an inner child and reparenting coach on a somatic level.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
And I love that your work now, like, because the way that I like to look at it, I grew up Christian. And so like the Trinity, I know what the Trinity is. It like resonates with me. And now understanding like we are all our own individual Trinities, mind, body, soul. I love that your work focuses on the whole person.
Yeah.
All three elements, because that's so important. So I'm interested because like you said before, you never saw this as a part of your path. So how did you end up here?
Oh, my own undoing, my own like chronic dumpster fire that I just couldn't stand anymore. On the outside, we had the nice house, we had 2 kids, we had decent cars, we went on great vacations.
You were doing all the things you were supposed to.
Absolutely,
all the boxes were ticked.
Absolutely. But yet like no one was requiring of that of me, like my parents when I was younger, but it just felt like this is the next thing, and then the next thing, and the next thing. Like we all have been fed and how we all believe that to be true. And yeah, I think that, again, that tipping point of the internal world was so terrible. Like I was merely just surviving day to day. And I think that I was watching that so profoundly affect my kids and my partnership that I was like, something has to change. And I truly think that it was like at the moment that I just decided to surrender and just be like, whatever it is that's going to come to me, that's going to create this change is what's going to come. And whether it's a year or 2 years or 10 years, like I just have to trust that, like that little voice that kept saying to me, like, just keep going, one foot in front of the other. It's going to find you. And it did shortly before the pandemic.
Just in time for the whole world to fall apart.
Yeah. And the gift in that, because we, suffered a lot of loss during the pandemic, just as everybody else did. The gift in that is that there would have been no other time in my life where I would have been able to take as much time and space to do the work that I did during COVID. And so like, that's where I continually come back to. It was such a time of like turmoil, but there was so much good that came from it as well.
Right. Yeah. And so many people have come out of the pandemic saying that, just like it was the slap down that we all kind of needed.
Mm-hmm.
We just didn't know it. And it came, like, like you were saying, it came with a lot of loss. It came with a lot of hardships. But if you let it, something like that can be the best thing for you.
100%.
In the end.
Yeah.
So how did, you were saying that the way that you were going before, it was affecting your relationship with your partner and your kids. Like, what exactly did that look like?
Yeah. So I was watching myself, as I would imagine a lot of people listening to this have also watched themselves parent and parrot the things that they said that they would never do as parents. Is, a lot of reactivity, a lot of projection of the overwhelm of your own life and the own adulting that you're doing, like kind of spewing that onto your own kids and making their needs the boiling point, which is not the way that this was obviously created to be. And I think that it was also a lot of, just like, I think at the deeper levels, my form of punishment, and this is really still like crunchy to say, is like my form of punishment was disconnection from them, like emotionally and physically. And that's what I experienced a lot. And that was probably some of the most painful parts of my childhood is when you didn't perform and you didn't do the things that you were supposed to, and you acted like an adult basically and didn't act like a child. Like, we are going to punish through disconnection of the heart. And so I watched myself start to like harden and become more cold and just not give a shit anymore. And I watched that from afar, but also like in it. And the same things were happening with my partnership. Like I have one of the most like incredible people as my partner. And I think that so many times I said to him, and I say to him now, is that like, we could have very easily been divorced. I wouldn't have wanted to be with the version of me that was showing up day to day. And I didn't expect him to either. In fact, I gave him several outs of like, if this is not what you signed up for, like, I understand if you want to leave. And I think that like, maybe that was some of the first ownership of like, I know that there's something within me that has to change. And I'm no longer wanting to drag anybody down in whatever this may look like. And of course he stayed. And yeah, it looked like a lot of self-loathing, a lot of shame, and a lot of judgment.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like that's going to resonate with so many people because it's so triggering, like having everything that you've ever wanted and everything that you thought that you were supposed to be getting, and then you get it. And it doesn't really feel like the way that you expected it to for any of us.
Yeah.
And it can be really triggering, and motherhood can be so triggering because, like you were saying, it like brings stuff up on you, and then you just end up projecting onto your kids. You end up doing the things that you said you were never going to do as a mom. You end up repeating behaviors that you saw as a child.
Yeah.
Just unconsciously, even though you didn't want to become that person.
Yeah.
And
I think what was interesting about that too is that, even in having all the things, it was the rewounding of, I had all the things as a child and you're too much. You're ungrateful. You have everything that you need. And so I'm literally on a somatic level replaying that in my body and in my mind. And again, outwardly in my behavior of like, everything that I have, I also feel shame for. Everything that I have, I'm ungrateful. And that makes me broken and wrong and all the things.
Wow.
And that was some of the deeper reflections that I had, that I was like, well, damn, like everything that I'm feeling within me, I am just feeling that 10 times more than I'm projecting it out, but I'm still projecting it out. The judgment that I have for my husband of not taking out the trash, my kids, and the frustration of not doing things the way that we had planned them to do. Like that was all my own stuff that I was just didn't know what to do with and felt unsafe to sit with. And so I was just the only way I knew was just to push that out.
Right. Yeah. That's the only way that any of us know until we start doing the work on ourselves.
Yeah.
So what did that look like for you when you made the decision of like, something's got to change because I'm hurting the people that I love? So what was your first step?
Yeah. So I think, again, I went back to somebody asked me recently, like, what was the breaking point? And I think I remember I was pregnant with my second. And I just remember that like antepartum season, even before she came, being again, like just so much hormones, so much dysregulation. And I would cry all the time and like crying for how no one taught me how to deal with any of this. Crying because I didn't know how to communicate what I needed, crying because I'd been so good at everything in my life. And now like, I just felt so helpless and hopeless. And I think it was at that point, I mean, she was born in 2017. So like, it wasn't until a year later that I'm walking down the street in still the height of my overdoing and loving CrossFit and, you know, again, projecting it onto something else. And I was just like flipping through this podcast and again, surrendering, letting it come to me. And my now mentor was on one of the biggest podcast platforms in that time period. And it was like, you know, carb cycling, like just meathead stuff. And then it was like inner child work, like how your mother and father shaped who you are today. And I was like, what? What is that? Like, so of course I listened to it. I was like, I'm intrigued. Right. And I think it was at that moment that I realized like the little whisper got loud and was like, hello, this is the thing. Like, keep listening. And, you know, she had retreats at the time that were these 6-day intensives and that didn't feel right, but the content felt right. And so again, it wasn't until COVID that she had to, you know, shift things to a virtual platform. And those 90 days of that initial virtual program were a complete undoing. They were unraveling, not even an unearthing yet. I mean, just all of the walls crumbling. And for the first time, you know, the question that you just asked is, it was a full acceptance and an onboarding of like love for that messy version of myself. And, I love that. And that really was the initial change. And that's what I tell my clients too, is that like, we can't go anywhere until you are actually on a somatic level, okay, and able to give love and acceptance to the version of you right now, not the version of you that's going to be whatever it is in 6 months, but right now. And so many of the women are like, wait, what? Or they talk about like, oh my God, I used to be so terrible. I say that I'm a dumpster fire, but I say that with like a lot of love and empathy. I don't say it with judgment. And so that was really the turning point and the first changes that allowed everything else to take place.
Yes. Yeah. Self-love really, I mean, it's kind of overused now. But it truly is like the first step and it's the most crucial step. It is the step that's going to propel you through all the other steps. And if you try to skip it, if you try to, you know, like you were saying, even like cheat the system and fall in love with the next version of yourself, like, no, the work is to love yourself right now.
Yeah.
The work is to love your life right now. You know, if you want to change, there's things in your life that you want to change, like I'm going through this right now in my now life. I live in a townhouse that I'm renting and I desire to buy a house. And it's really been sinking in, like, I have to love this house first. Mm-hmm. I have to take super great care of it and be like the best caretaker of it possible before the universe knows that I'm ready for my house.
Yeah. And I think on a cognitive level, like I heard that over and over and over again, but I think what things started to really click when I realized and I had the perspective of you were showing up in that way based on a stress response. You were showing up in that way based on your inner child not getting what they needed. And so when you see a cause for it, for that behavior, Not that there's an excuse for it, but like when you see the root, you're like, oh, of course. And when you see the root as one that didn't know any better, but now knows better, then you realize like, yes, of course I can give her love. Just like you can give your kids love, or someone, a small child that maybe isn't your own kid that is learning to ride a bike or learning something new. More often than not, we're not going to be super hard on that person or judge that person for not being good at that at first. And so that was really what changed, is that, well, no shit. I was like showing up in that way because no one had ever modeled to me that there was anything in between stuffing your feelings and projectile vomiting your anger out on others. You know, like no one taught you that. And now you are being taught that. And so it's not only the acceptance, but there's an empowerment of like, ooh, like that version of me wasn't actually that terrible of a person. It was just a person that didn't have all the pieces yet.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Having so much compassion and grace for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
100%.
So how did your husband, did you talk to your husband about like the work that you were doing, or was it kind of just like your thing and then he kind of just experienced the benefit of it?
Yeah. So I really do believe that from the moment that I met David, that he saw the version of me that I am now. And I don't really know how he did that. I think that he has a lot of gifts that are starting to come online that he just knew. And it was that inner knowing that he really trusted, that was like, she's going to get there. I don't have to push her. I just have to like be there as a support. And so it was very much like, this is your thing. It was really funny because he got onto the connection call with the previous co-facilitator of this organization and straight up asked him like, is this a cult? Like, this sounds like a cult. And it was so funny now. And it was like, I mean, it's not, but like a lot of people would look at it and be like, this kind of change really isn't happening in a lot of different spaces. And so, after that initial like half-hearted, but kind of half serious like question, I think he just gave me space, and that's all I needed. I'm definitely an internal processor because communication wasn't really modeled to me in a healthy way. I had to do a lot of processing on my own and then bring that to him when I was ready. And yeah, I mean, he sat by and he was there. And I think that the cool part is that he maybe was skeptical at first, but the changes that he saw in me allowed him to have more belief in it, to the point where, I mean, in the last like 6 to 9 months, it has shifted towards me being, thriving and so stable that like now he gets to pour into himself, because we always knew like we both had stuff. It was just mine was kind of more present than his was. And so, yeah, like super supportive and just kind of allowed me to blossom.
Yeah. Do you think that you would have done it anyways if he had given you serious pushback and resistance?
Oh, we have this part of our relationship where it may not vibe with everyone, but he always says to me, whether it was a multi-level marketing company that I did in the past or switching jobs when I was 7 months pregnant, like, Amanda, when you have something in your mind, we can discuss it, but you already know that you're going to do it. And so I think that he could have had that resistance, and maybe he did have a little bit of pause and worry, but he always fully trusted me. And I think that was what made that work, is I always needed someone not to just believe in me, but to trust me, and to trust, even though all of the patterns were just like completely crushing me, that at my essence, like he again saw that greater version of me that did have an inner knowing that was taking her in a direction that was ultimately going to serve her and him and her family.
Right. And that's so beautiful that you guys have that relationship. And I think it's really important for women to hear that part of your story specifically, because I know that so many women, if they don't have the support of their husbands, they stop.
Yeah. And that is rooted usually in codependency, which again, my like patterning was hyper independence. So we didn't have that. Like he knew coming in, the moment that he met me, you better be able to hold a wild, big person, because if not, it's not going to work. And again, the gift of like our parents and what's modeled to us is that his mom is super independent, and his dad kind of took a little bit of a backseat to some of their, in a really healthy way. Like his dad could hold someone that could take up space, and that was a woman. And David was able to have that as well, like as a gift.
Right. Yeah. It's, it is rooted in, like you said, codependency, like just internalization, stuff you've learned in the past. But I do also believe that socialization plays a huge part of it, because you can grow up and be, trained and groomed by your parents, your mother, to be fiercely independent, but you're still getting the socialization from our culture of what a woman's place is, what a husband's place is, and what happens, and how your life is supposed to shift and change when you get married. And I know that was definitely my experience. I've always been an independent person, but when I got married, it's like some subconscious thing clicked inside of me, and I did go along with so many things that he wanted to do, and just kind of, and I wasn't even thinking, I wasn't cognitive of it. It was just something happening in my subconscious. I think
what you touched on there is something that I'm actually going to post a reel on this week, is that, so from our parents, like there is sometimes this conflict that occurs where you are being told, like, you are so smart, you can do anything that you put your mind to, like go after those things as a kid, as a young adult. And then sometimes what we're hearing that, but what we're seeing from maybe specifically our moms and maybe our dads, or what we're feeling is that, like, that's okay to a point. It's okay till the ring is on. It's okay till you pop out the first one. And so we get that like internal struggle of like, wait, but I was told this, but like you kind of believe that. So now do I have to question myself? And now do I have to just model what was modeled to me? And so, yeah, of course you get confused with that. And then I'd rather be connected to the community and feel safe than, make waves. And that's,
right. Which is just the amygdala kicking in, just, you got to stay with the tribe or you're going to get eaten by a lion and die.
Right. Right. Yes.
Yeah. And for me, like my upbringing, my parents were divorced. And so I had my mom as a single mom who was like very like empowering and, feminist. But then I had my dad who was very Mexican and old school, and his parents, my Nana and grandpa. I mean, but my Nana is such an interesting character because she's so independent. She's always had her own businesses and her own money, and like will just say her mind, but she still, after work, was the one making everybody dinner and bringing it to my grandpa because he was sitting down in front of the TV.
Yeah.
And so it was a very confusing batch of messages that my child self got.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
Then when I was a young adult, I got married when I was 21, and I had no fucking clue what to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, again, like some of our patterns that we always had and the limiting beliefs that we had haven't yet, reared their ugly head until we get married and we have kids, because the strategies that we used before are no longer working. Like we can't make everyone happy with the bandwidth of having one kid or 4 kids. We can't overdo over and over and over again just to prove that like we're worthy of that, because we've got so many other things on our plate. We can't plan everything out to a T. And so I think that those limiting beliefs of like, from your grandmother of like, you can have it all, but you still have to sacrifice at the end of the day, or to have it all is still hard. Like those are the things that you get to rewire and, again, use and retrain your brain to be like, no. Like you get to have needs and get done what lights you up. You get to have support and also do the things that you are called to in your life.
Yes. Yeah. So what would be one piece of encouragement that you would tell a woman listening to this who wants to sign up for whatever that program is, but she has zero support from her husband?
Yeah. So, couple of things is like, you get to go first. Like as soon as you can validate yourself in the fear, but differentiate that you are no longer that child that's in fear of what mom and dad are going to think of you. That is when that freedom starts to come online, is that like, yes, you can have resistance. Some of my clients, their husbands, I had one client that their husband didn't even know that they were doing coaching with me for like the first 3 or 4 months because she was afraid, like not even from a financial level, but like, what would he think of me? And so I think that your commitment to going first, again, for yourself, but also with the butterfly effect of how it will affect your family and your partner, is bar none like one of those biggest first commitments, and sometimes the hardest, because you finally have to identify that like, if nothing changes, nothing changes. And the change has to start within you. So many moms will be like, well, I want to see like how I can get, my partner and my kids to like act differently. And I'm like,
right.
reverse that. Like, like, let's do that. Let's do the other. And they're like, what? So I think that more than anything, like we have been fed whatever you believe and however you brought up is that women ultimately have to just make it work and surrender and just figure it all out themselves. And sometimes we overcomplicate things to the point where it's like, this just all seems too complicated and hard. And so I'm just going to collapse. I'm just going to stuff it down. I'm just going to not worry about it. And so many of the older clients that I have are like, I really wish that I would have started this when I was 30. I really wish that I'm not now 50 or 60 and having to rewind the clock, even though they're thankful that they have the gifts now and the tools now. But like, I think that those initial come hell or high water, I'm now choosing myself, is ultimately the most selfless gift that you can give your partner and your kids, because I've seen way too many people make the leap and then their partner come online, or them start to see shifts within, their family unit. And it's really, really fun to just sit back and watch.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I just really hope that one day we can get like the feminist movement to a point where women can make a choice to work on themselves, not because not because they're doing it for their family, which is still, that's valid. Like the butterfly effect of how working on yourself like translates into your relationships across the board is a beautiful thing. Yeah. But I so desperately hope that women can get to a point where they will work on themselves just for themselves, just out of love for themselves, because you are the only one living in your body. You are the only one experiencing all the turmoil and suffering that you're creating inside your body.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that comes from more vulnerability and rawness amongst our community of like, yeah, this is hard, and you get to still support yourself and you still get to ask for support. And I think that it's, I've listened to so many podcasts recently about like how as a society we're so siloed and segmented off. And I think that the more that we create this safety within our own system and start doing this work in whatever way it looks like for you, we also, again, get to then bring that out into the community. And then that safety of connection within the community, that creates more support. And so, through COVID and even before COVID, like we've started to become so isolated. Like, I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to do it on my own. I mean, I even still struggle with this in the hyper independence of like, why do I need anybody when the purpose is that like the fullness of life is experienced, yes, with self, but also with others.
Yes. Yeah. No, I struggle. I'm also a recovering hyper independent individual.
Yeah.
And the struggle is real. And it's so funny because it's like, I'm a coach and I'm fully aware of the benefit of coaching. And yet I still catch myself in such strong resistance to getting my own ass coached, because I'm like, no, I should be able to do this by myself.
Yeah.
Because I'm a coach, I should be able to self-coach. And it's like, yes, but also it's okay to need other people, Amanda.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that's so interesting that we've kind of, a couple of the master coaches and I, through the program that I help with, is this notion of just being witnessed. So like a lot of times we as coaches will just get on a Zoom call and literally just like, yeah, and what else? And what else? And feel that. And you're not really necessarily getting coached. You're more just being witnessed. And so there's just that part of like, no one necessarily needs to do anything for you. You just have to feel safe enough to let these parts of you be seen. And because that's so much of a lot of, we could even get a discussion about that, of just we're all into the fixing and the doing, when people just kind of want to be seen and heard. And that's really what moves the needle for them.
Yeah. Yeah. I have this conversation frequently with a really good friend of mine. She gets so frustrated with her husband because she'll be experiencing something that just like creates sadness or whatever, usually sadness inside of her. And she just wants to talk to him. And he goes immediately into fixing mode.
Yeah.
She gets so frustrated because she's just like, I'm not trying to fix it. I just want him to listen. That's all I want him to do.
Yeah.
How do I get him to understand that?
Yeah. Well, and I think that, that's, again, going back to the vulnerability and rawness is, I think I had probably 2 or 3 conversations with people in partnership this week that I literally asked, like, but have you communicated that? Well, not really. Well, okay. Or kind of. So like men need the specifics and in the specifics, they get to deliver on what you've asked for in the specificity. And I do believe that a lot of men want to do that. They want to please, they want to like create that connection, but they need a playbook. Like they need to know in what way you need support and what that looks like for you. Because for them, they may have learned that it's a fixer and that like their mom went off the rails and the only thing that would quiet mom is for dad to fix it. And so like it could be this huge shift in someone's relationship merely to say, hey, from now on, I'm going to ask and see if you have the space for me to share vulnerably with you.
Yes, that is such an important step. Such an important step.
So key. I used to be like, that's bullshit. And then I'm like, okay, it does make a difference. But like, it's one of those things where that first and foremost consent. And then 2, asking for what you need. Hey, I'm about to unload something on you. It's not something that you need to change or fix. I just want to be heard and seen in it. And so like, if I feel like at the end of the conversation, I'd love your reflection, great. But like, do you feel like that's possible? Do you have that capacity to just kind of sit and listen and be? Yeah, dude, cool. Perfect. Yeah, absolutely.
And then also being okay if they say no.
Yes. Yes.
And not letting that mean anything about your relationship with them, your connection with them, or them as a person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because then that's you trying to fix them.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And I mean, ultimately, again, I say this as well, is that like the answer can always be no. And that's actually okay because you still have yourself. If the constant is always, I need reflection from others, there's kind of a little bit of a red flag there where you want to look at like, yes, you want to be reflected to, or you want to get reflections from others, or you want to be witnessed by others, but also, are you okay with just resting in what you can give yourself? And I think that for a lot of women, they're also learning that like, that doesn't mean abandonment. Like you being able to ask for what you need and someone to meet you in, I can't meet that need right now, does not mean that you don't still tend to it. It means that you go and you self-tend, you like self-support.
Yes.
And then you come back.
And it doesn't mean that they abandoned you.
Right.
Like to your point.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Because yes, so many women that experienced a lot of abandonment in their life, like feel like, we'll see, like it's happening again. It was just, he just got home from work. Like you haven't seen him in 7 days. Like, let's give him a moment and let's ask again, follow-up question of like, when can you be available? Like, do you need to go on a walk and then we'll talk in about an hour? Like it's, I had a client yesterday that she was like, I feel like I'm doing a really, really good job. I'm keeping the peace. I'm not projecting my anger onto him. I've been really gentle, but I'm also, I'm feeling this anger and like resentment grow because I'm not getting my needs met. And I was like, okay, so you're creating this duality of I either have to be like pretty, pretty princess or like raging dragon lady. Like, what about the in between? She was like, oh yeah, I guess there is an in between. Yeah, there is.
Yes, there is.
Live in the gray. Live in the gray.
Yes, there is. And, also like, because I've heard complaints before where it's just like, well, I've told him like, I just need you to like listen to me and hold space and just be okay with that. And he still is trying to fix it. And I just want to be able to talk to my husband about these things. And instead I have to call you. And I'm like, well, why is that a problem? Why does that have to be your husband's job?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it okay that your husband can't like be there for you in that exact way that you exactly need him? Is it okay that it's me? Is it okay that it's your best friend, whoever's listening to this, or your mother or your sister or your whoever, is that okay?
Yeah.
Why are you holding so firmly onto this picture in your mind that it has to be your husband? Your husband has to be the one who understands you the best all around the circle and can hold all the space for you all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like that's a really good point of, that we get into this, like maybe perfectionist, but more like rigid thought process of like, this is what success looks like. This is what connection looks like. And I don't want to like say that you shouldn't be connected at all with your partner. Like, of course you want to share.
And that's not it. That's not at all what I'm saying. But if you're doing emotional work on yourself and you're at a level that like your partner is not, and he just can't meet you where you desire for him to meet you, but you have a friend, you have someone else in your village, like let your village support you. I think that our society has romanticized so heavily that we sell ourselves on this idea that like our partner should be our everything. And I just think that that's kind of unfair to put on a person.
Yeah, it actually, if any of your listeners are a fan of Trevor Noah, he did a podcast probably about maybe 3 weeks or a month ago about, he had a woman on that had written a book about like the transitioning of how we are as, platonic friends, whether it's like same sex or opposite sex, and how like there is this very slow, but this emerging trend of having your person not necessarily be your person 100% of the time, and how like that can be a gift in so many ways, and that people are more equipped to give you what you need. But also I think it gives people the room to also watch and to go at their speed, to respect their slowest part. Because, early on you talked about like, well, how was, how was he during this journey? And so I was, he sat back and watched, but I did feel from him some moments where he wanted to be included, but he wasn't in the plane of understanding what we're going through. He wasn't in the container. And so he was able to be gentle with himself and patient with himself, that maybe he didn't always understand, but energetically he knew I was always coming home to him. He was always the person that like I committed myself to, that there wasn't any sort of, emotional inappropriateness going on. And that just because I was connected with these people in this work, that like it meant that our relationship was changing. Because I think that, again, sometimes, the essence of the masculine is just like sitting back and not having any sort of needs asked of him. And so I think when they get to watch you be in your journey without you feeling like you have to drag them along, that sometimes that's really refreshing for them. And I also, going back to the communication part, I think that you can say the thing of like, hey, using nonviolent communication, if you've ever heard of that, is like, do you remember that time where I specifically asked, hey, can you just hold space for me? Can you just listen without fixing? And you kind of launched into fixing again. Yeah, I remember that. Like I thought I was helping. Yeah. So when that happens, I feel like you're not really listening or hearing me. You're just focused on the fixing. And that's exactly what I actually don't want. So like in the future, maintaining curiosity of like, hey, I'm curious that this is really difficult for you. Like, why do you think that it's so difficult for you to just listen and not fix? Then shut up. Like, and let him shut up. Yeah. And then honestly, sometimes you get that connection that you've been wanting by just letting him speak.
Right.
And I think that for women, they're like, well, they don't have anything to say. Well, you haven't been asking the right questions. You haven't like continued this like realm of curiosity with him that you are now with yourself. And so I think for a lot of people,
you haven't really like held any curiosity. You've been holding judgment. You've like made up your mind about why he's doing what he's doing, and you're coming at him from that space instead of being curious.
Yeah.
And not assuming that you know.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. And I think for a lot of people, or men especially, maybe they don't know the answer then, but like you've dropped that into their awareness for them to continue to chew on. That is exactly what happened with David, is that like I would ask him these things or things would come up, and then it would be like a month later and he'd be like, hey, so I think I have that answer now. I'm like, answer to what? Like, what are you talking about? And then we would, we would be able to, at his pace, like honoring his slowest part, be able to like slowly connect in that and let that unravel and us grow together, even if it wasn't at the same pace.
Yes. Yeah. And that is partnership.
For sure.
You guys holding space for each other and where you're at and loving one another for where you're at right now.
For sure. 100%. Yeah. And I still push up against this, even though I know in my mind it probably makes sense, is, David always said, like, two people cannot be healing at the rate that you were healing. So it just made sense. Like, we had small children that like you would start this process first, and then I would come on when you were more, he used the word stabilized, which I don't love. But again, I think that, we as women we have this idea, like you said, this romanticized, like, oh, we're going to do this together and it's going to be full force. Well, you know how under-resourced you are at times when you are excavating these deep parts of you.
Yeah.
It's likely that your partner is not going to be able to hold space for you if they too are doing the same thing. And so letting it be that like fluidity of like, yep, I'm leaning in. Yep, I've got space today. Ooh, I'm going to like back off this excavating hunt and to let you have space. It's just the dance, the gray once again.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And like someone has to take care of the kids when the other one's taking a nap from all the emotional unearthing that they did. Like, it's actually like physically exhausting sometimes.
Yeah. 100% it is. Yes, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. So how old are your kids now?
Kennedy will be 7 in August, and Christopher is my Christmas baby. So he's 9.5.
Okay. So how do you apply your inner child work to your children? Like, are you trying to, I don't know, it's kind of interesting to think of like helping them work on their inner child, like as their children. I don't really know how that works.
Yeah. And this is a great segue to what we were talking about just like 30 seconds ago of curiosity. Is I feel like that I have switched my perspective of, instead of judgment and shame and like, oh, why are you doing the thing, of like, why are you doing the thing? Like, have you not gotten enough attention? Are you under-resourced? Like, didn't get a nap, haven't eaten? And again, like, the whole partner discussion of like letting them in and asking them, like, what's going on? Like, what I feel like what I have seen is you be short with your sister and you just like not have a lot of bandwidth with like your games. And it's just kind of like this general sense of like uneasiness with you. Like, what's going on? And, a lot of times it's, I'm just tired, or like school was hard, but like a lot of times, again, they come back later and are like, I just was feeling off. And you being okay with that, you as a 6-year-old, you as a 9-year-old get to have an off day. Like, that's okay. I think the full permission of all parts of them and the most authentic parts of them, the most vulnerable parts of them coming online and being able to take up space has been what I'm now doing for my inner child. And so, like it is, I don't necessarily know that we're like looking into their inner child and saying like, what's your inner child need? But like treating them as that child that like has vulnerability, has needs. And sometimes, again, at those ages, don't always have the words for them, but creating, again, modeling for, okay, you're angry or you're frustrated. Like, how are we going to express that together? Mom's also like at a 10. So like, want to go punch some pillows? We're going to just like go ninja the bed. Like, what are we going to do? Right. And a lot of parents have a little bit of like uneasiness with that. Like, what, we're going to do this together. We're going to yell together. Yeah. You're not doing it at each other. You're just doing it like in tandem. And for a lot of parents, I hear the phrasing of like, well, I don't want them to see me cry.
Yes.
And what did that do for you with your parent that you never saw cry, or that they projected their fear, their uncertainty out on you? And they're like, oh yeah, that's true. And it's different when you're emotionally bombing somebody versus I'm holding this energy in on my own and I'm expressing it as my own, and I'm not letting it just become enmeshed with everyone else's experience. And really just, again, whether you're showing emotion or not, naming for your kids where you're at. There are some days, again, depending on my cycle, that I'm like, guys, we're in that period of the month where everything feels really loud to me and I'm just not doing really well right now. And so I may be more quiet. I'm going to try to work to not be super short with you all, but I just want to let you in of where I'm at, because kids can't, from 0 to 7, like they don't know the reason behind, they don't have like the cognitive means to say, oh, like she's worked 60 hours this week, so she's just tired. They think that they internalize that, like I've done something wrong, I'm bad. And so being able to, again, like share with them, hey, like this has nothing to do with you. I got the wrong mayonnaise and I really wanted this sandwich and I'm disappointed. And like making the little things okay to be disappointed, because it's so much like, oh, it was just a doll, we'll get you another one. Like it's not that big of a deal. Like whatever they're feeling, just as whatever you're feeling, is valid and it's able to be here. And the more that we let it online, we're able to usually move through that a little bit quicker. And so I would say those are the biggest things of how I've shifted my parenting and how I've just applied the things that I'm doing within myself to them.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's such beautiful work. And it's so important to let your kids see your entire range of human emotions and let them see you, when you go through seasons where life sucks ass and you're just on the floor, like let them see you on the floor, because then they let you let them see you get back up.
Yeah. Resiliency for sure.
Yes. And you let them see you, like how you navigate change, how you navigate disappointment, how you navigate when the shit hits the fan. So that way, when they're the adults going through it, or, if it happens to them, even before they hit adulthood, like they are like, oh, I remember what this looked like for mom. Mm-hmm. It's okay for me to cry. It's okay for me to not get out of bed today. It's okay. Yeah. Because I'll get out of bed tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. I know a lot of parents talk about repair, and I think that, after a rupture, repair is really important. But I also feel like there's so many things that you can do before the rupture that's what I try to focus on more. I mean, it's bar none, like not a negotiable thing that I'm going to come back and repair. Like, hey, mom did the thing that wasn't okay for mom to do. I didn't show up in the way that I wanted to. Can you forgive me in that? Yes. Yeah. Whatever. But yeah, like there is so much pre-work that can be done, proactiveness that can occur where we're not always in the, reparative stage.
Mm-hmm. Yes. No, I totally agree. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your journey.
Yeah.
I absolutely love this conversation. I like to end every guest episode with a quick lightning round of questions.
Oh my God, I love this. Ready? Yes, I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay. What did you want to be when you grew up?
A veterinarian.
A veterinarian. Nice. So you like animals?
I mean, not really. I just wanted, I don't know. Like I have a dog and I like dogs, but I'm not like the animal lover that was like, oh yeah, like you're totally going to be a veterinarian. It was weird. I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your favorite kid-free dinner? So if you're picking dinner and no picky eaters get to voice their concerns or their opinions, what are we eating?
I'm such a nacho fiend. I'll eat any kind of nacho.
Nice.
My kids actually like it too. So it's a win-win.
Win-win.
Yeah.
Yes. What's your favorite book?
Ooh, The Body Keeps the Score. I hate to be a nerd. Okay. So good.
I have not read that one yet.
Yes.
Yeah. I've heard it's really good though.
Yes. Good stuff.
Your guilty pleasure entertainment.
Oh, the Kardashians. Duh. Duh. Like, I think when you said guilty, I could have just said Kardashian. Like, I just would have said it. Because it's
like immediately.
Yeah. I'm like, I have transitioned from Real Housewives to solely Kardashian. And I will not apologize. I will die on that hill.
I love that. So this is a question that I've stolen from the Low Life podcast because it's too good to not steal.
Yeah.
If your belly button was an actual button, what would it do?
Ooh. The first thing I like, trust this, even though this isn't really what I would say, is like when you said that, I was like, fart. But I don't know that would be useful to me or to anybody else. What would the button do? It would fart.
I mean, it would be funny.
Yeah. Give me cash. But then that would make me ask, like, where would the cash come out of? Which is also
right.
Awkward.
Right.
Cha-ching, cha-ching. There's probably some strippers out there that could be like, I'll show you. I have so many skills. Like, right?
Oh my God, that's so good.
Yeah. Cha-ching.
What's one thing in motherhood that you'd like to say fuck it to?
Oh, fucking lunches, school lunches. Do you know what the best time of my life is? Do you know when I was really thriving is when we had gone back to school. It was still in the middle of like COVID season and they got free lunches. A year and a half, free lunches. I didn't have to pack a single lunch. And now every day, I don't like that. I didn't eat that. That was cold. It was too warm. Like, no. Lunches. Lunches.
I agree. I'm looking forward to summer when like they're just going to graze. They're going to be around. There's going to be food available and you can eat whatever the fuck you want.
Right.
You get to pick.
100%.
I'll make dinner for everybody. That's it.
Yes. 100%. Good gracious.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much again. I hope you have a wonderful marathon.
Yeah.
And that your trip to Mexico goes really well too.
Awesome. This was so much fun. Love this. Love what you're doing.
Oh,
yes.
Wait.
Yes.
Sorry. Where can people get in touch with you?
Oh, yeah, that's just like an extra bonus. So Instagram, I'm most active on the Somatic DPT. D as in David, P as in Paul, T as in Tom. It's my credentials for physical therapy. So yeah, I have all my resources on there, free stuff, links to stuff if you want to buy it, asking questions about this podcast or anything that I post on there. I just want to simplify it. I don't have any sort of fancy website, like just IGing it up, the Somatic DPT.
I feel that. And we will link that in the show notes.
Perfect.
Thank you, Amanda.
You're so welcome.
Are you living your one wild life to the fullest? You're not? Why the fuck not? What are you waiting for? The time to live is now, mama. Do not wait until your youngest is in college. Let your dreams hire me for an hour so I can explain how I can help you achieve any goal in your life. You've put yourself off long enough. It's time to pour into you. The link to schedule your 60-minute complimentary consultation is in my show notes. Join the community of Fuck It Moms by following me on Instagram and Facebook at Fuck It Mothering. That's fuck without the U. So FCK It Mothering. Make sure you subscribe to my channel so you never miss your weekly encouragement. And please rate, review, comment, and share. All of these things help with the algorithms, so that way when other overwhelmed moms are looking for encouragement, they can find me. Every month, I give away one of my favorite books and a Starbucks card to a lucky winner. All you have to do to enter is write a review or tag me in social media when you share an episode. See you next Sunday, gorgeous.